Today, I'm Michael from Justuno. Today, we're talking about alcohol and e-commerce, a how-to. So we are joined today by BigCommerce, OmniSend, Recharge, Scubana, ourselves, Justuno, of course, and Yotpo. And so we are all here to a pretty killer panel to talk about how to help scale, run, grow your alcohol business and related brands and niches. So without further ado, I'd like to get some quick intros. So Mitch, if you want to kick us off.
Yeah, I'm Mitch McKay. I'm the Strategic Partner Manager for BigCommerce based in Austin, Texas.
And then SJ, Stephanie.
Hey there, everyone. I'm SJ. I'm a customer success strategist here at Justuno and work with a variety of clients and based here in Austin.
Awesome. And Gabe.
Hey everyone, I'm the Director of Customer Success here at OmniSend, and my name is Gabe Macaluso, so feel free to look me up on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Thanks, Gabe. And Matt, number one, Matt Holomar.
Thanks. Yeah, hey everybody, my name is Matt Lamar. I'm a Technology Partnership Manager here at Recharge. Excited to be here. Oh, located in Portland, Oregon.
Awesome. And Maloney.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maloney. I'm a client success manager for the loyalty product here at Yotpo, based out of New York.
Awesome. And Matthew Rickerby.
Hi, I'm Matt Rickerby. I'm the Director of Marketing for Scubana, and I'm also based out of New York.
Awesome. Great. Cool. We are 4 past. So I'm going to go ahead and run through some quick logistics for everyone. So the recording of this webinar will be sent to all registrants. So if you have a friend that couldn't make it live, or if you want to send it to someone, that will be sent out tomorrow morning. Additionally, if you have any questions for any of the panelists at any time, whether it's during the presentation or after, stuff like that, throw it in the chat over there, and we will get that answered live on air. And then if there's any time at the end, we will have a open Q&A session. So if you have any last minute questions, things like that, we'll get those answered up. And of course, if you have any questions about recording and logistics, anything like that, throw that in the chat too, and we'll get those answered. So yeah, without further ado, we're going to start it off with Mitch McKay from BigCommerce to talk about BigCommerce and alcohol.
All right, looking forward to it. All right, can everybody see my screen? Perfect. So as I led with, I'm Mitch McKay. I manage our global marketing technology partnerships here at BigCommerce. We're a SaaS-based e-commerce platform, and so we specialize in helping merchants sell more at all the different stages of growth. So my goal today is going to give you guys a playbook on how to be successful in the DTC alcohol industry, and starting with your online store. So looking at the wine and spirit research industry as a whole, the stats are pretty compelling. So with an alcohol industry valuation of 1.32 billion and year-over-year growth trending at 8%, what I think is most interesting is that alcohol sales account for 243% growth year-over-year post-coronavirus outbreak. And so what that means is that it's a huge opportunity for online retailers, and it means the e-commerce platform, it's on us to make sure we support you at those different stages of growth. What that means in the US specifically is highlighted below. There's a lot of VC money that's pouring into the industry, and it's because the markets recognize that this is a huge growing segment. Specifically, you look at Uber acquiring Drizzly, raising 155 million in their Series D, and a couple of the ones highlighted on the right. What it shows is that while the amount of deals is smaller, the overall investment in this market segment is the highest it's ever been, and it's only going to continue to grow. So what that means for us as an e-commerce platform is that we're excited about DTC alcohol. And so for us from a platform perspective, we're uniquely positioned to be successful and to help our merchants succeed, because we're designed to help our market reach, engage customers, and sell effectively online. So bolstered by COVID-19, it means that brick and mortar businesses are now transitioning to selling online more and more. especially since 2019, with 44% having purchased alcohol online for the first time in 2020 with a consumer survey that we ran. The second part that was really interesting is when we were pulling some statistics, we saw that there's 600% growth that's scheduled by 2024. So for us, when we look at our merchant base, what we want to accomplish is we want to help them create world-class digital storefronts, and that includes the functionality, security, and speed needed to succeed. And we accomplish this using software as a service. So that's the SaaS portion of our mission statement. And we're looking to build, innovate, and grow as our top 3 value pillars. We currently have 65,000 merchants, and that scales over 150 countries. So the question is, what is open SaaS specifically? So here's the BigCommerce platform represented. Everything in blue is what's included in our platform. And you can see these as being the core elements of e-commerce. As you can see from this graph, we handle everything from merchandising and promotions to catalog management, reporting, and analytics. All of this is hosted by us, which means we can deliver the best performance possible to our merchants, and your team doesn't have to stress about it. That's the SaaS element. We also understand, though, that as your business grows and matures, there's going to be a higher need for sophisticated tools that are going to be key to accelerating your growth. A good example would be ERP. So many of our merchants are going to rely on an ERP for all their business operations, from customer management, catalog management, to BI. So these merchants are going to take advantage of our open API endpoints, and those are going to connect seamlessly with our ERP. And that way the data transfer goes bidirectionally between the 2 systems. So in a sense, you're basically overriding our native customer management, catalog management, and analytics in favor of a more advanced tool. That's the open element that our platform provides. Another good example would be CMS. So you can utilize the power of CMS to customize the front end portion of your site while utilizing the power and stability of the BigCommerce platform to host your cart and checkout, and you're essentially getting the best of both worlds. Outside of our basic e-commerce platform features and functionalities, these are 4 other things that you want to consider before launch. And we've got integrated partners in each of these segments. They're going to give you that seamless one-click app experience you're looking for, so that you have your payments, your shipping, your tax, your POS, and even your store design covered. Now the fun part, which is making a beautiful, compelling storefront that tells the story that you want to tell to the world and represents your brand. So we have 13 specific themes for the food and beverage industry, and they're all customizable, and you can find these in our theme marketplace and then manage these natively in the control panel. Practical example of some of the things I was referencing early is Woodland Hills Wine Company. So they started in 1978, and they were a small mom and pop owned business. As they started to grow and scale, what they found was that PCI compliance and software maintenance was a huge pain point for them. And so BigCommerce's SaaS approach meant that we could take on all of those responsibilities for them, and we would do it seamlessly. So essentially what their founder said when he met with us was that he was pushing really hard for that walled garden of a SaaS solution. He wanted us to host, manage the service and platform, and he also wanted updates and payment integrations to be handled by us as well. So at the end of the day, he was able to maintain a high level control of the JavaScript, HTML, and the API, and then we handled everything on the back end. The stats and results they've seen on the right are pretty compelling. And I think one of the coolest things about this is if you look at their storefront, it's modern, it tells a story, it's visually compelling. Another great example is Silent Pool Distillery. Very, very cool company. So their founder, Ian McCullough, he retired in 2014, but he's always been an avid gin drinker. And so he'd always had a goal of owning his own distillery. So he just buys a plan, set out some strategic partners, and then when he dove into it, they started out fairly small scale, but they realized that e-commerce provided an opportunity for them to grow at a scale they hadn't recognized before. His quote is one I'll read verbatim because I think it's fantastic. What he had said is that the operational management and reporting capabilities of the platform was limited, and he couldn't meet their growing business needs any longer. However, since moving to BigCommerce, they've been able to navigate away. And what that's meant is that their growth post-COVID 2020 has been exceptional, and BigCommerce is now an integral part of their business. Being able to relieve the technical management portion of their website, including capacity, security, and update issues. Now we know that a SaaS-based platform was exactly what we needed. And the last merchant example I'll walk you through is 4 Pillars Gin and Spirits. Awesome team that's created a beautiful storefront. And I love their mantra. Their mantra is that there's nothing like knowing who you are and what you're meant to do. And so the way that their founder, Matt Jones, articulated that is he's always said, they aren't a retailer. They're a brand that sells. And what they want to sell is gin. And so they were looking at third-party platforms and recognizing that the destination that you're pushing people towards is crucial, because social media is a place where they generated a lot of traffic and followers and built engagement, but they still need a compelling storefront that tells a great story to the world that leads to conversions. And that's where they found the BigCommerce functionality was really useful, because it was easy to use. We handle all the technical expertise. And then on the front end, they can create that storefront that reflects their values, tells their message, and all the stats on the right-hand side have reflected the great results that they've seen. So what I'd like to end with is looking through the presentation. If there's anything BigCommerce can help you just from a high-level standpoint, or if you're interested in demo, reach out to me personally. Always happy to help. E-commerce is my favorite thing. And from there, send it over back to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mitch. Really appreciate all that, especially the large number of stats you provided, the huge increase of sizes of VC deals is particularly impressive, as we discussed previously. Just love it. So yeah, thank you so much. Next up is Stephanie Corcamo, or SJ, from Justuno, who we're talking about conversion rate optimization for alcohol brands. So SJ, take it away.
Yes, thank you. Great info, Mitch. That was awesome to hear, especially just working with my clients. I know it's, very specific per industry, and there's a lot that we need to specify there. Oops.
Okay, Stephanie, you are muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah. All right. Can you see my presentation okay?
Good to go.
Good to go. Okay, perfect. So getting into it, I am a customer success strategist here at Justuno, and working with a variety of clients. It's not only, what strategies we're using offsite, but how we can sync that with what we're presenting on site. So Mitch did a great job of explaining elements that we want to consider in a website, and really how BigCommerce stands out there and what they already provide in-house. And what Justuno does is work seamlessly with your e-commerce platform like BigCommerce to show unique messaging, or just whatever you're really trying to get across branding wise, to sync up with your offsite efforts. So getting into it here, what we'll be covering, this is really for merchants who are selling alcohol, or maybe in that high risk department, and just things that we want to be hyper aware of on your site experience and the messaging and branding that you're portraying on site. So from a Justuno perspective, we'll be covering top items or touch points to keep in mind as visitors browse or are hoping to purchase from your site. Alrighty, so personalizing the experience. Awesome, so here's a quick poll. So what messaging do you struggle with on site to start off with? Could be shipping, quality of products, how or where to purchase from a certain retail location, maybe how you're meshing that off-site and on-site experience, or maybe just giving people ideas.
A few more seconds for those answers to roll in, SJ. I'll close it out in just a second. I've got some more answers coming in, so y'all share those results when they're in. Awesome. All right, take it away, SJ.
Perfect. So, and into the personalizing the experience. With this, you can provide recommendations based on related items that are in the cart by using the Justuno advanced rules. So you can get very specific, maybe it's by certain categories or based on the SKU that is in cart that you know is really popular, we can target that. So the idea is to give the shopper the same, if not an elevated experience as they might experience with an in-store expert that kind of just knows exactly what that will go great with, or kind of what maybe you should explore if you do like something. And so building out a product bundle would also be the next step here. So you can see we have Moscow Mule examples down below. And what we want to do with the product bundle is making it unique by putting yourself in their shoes and seeing really what they can blend or what goes well together. So you would use a Justuno pop-up and show how they can use that in a recipe, or show them that they can even add each product to their cart from that pop-up to go ahead and get that recipe going. One less thing to think about. Our goal here was being conversion focused in that session. So sometimes we may need to include a discount or a special offer to go along with this upsell that we're intending to show. And that can even come down to who we're showing it to. Maybe that unique offer isn't quite necessary for that new visitor, but if someone's been to the site a few times and has not yet purchased, maybe we throw in that offer if it makes sense for them, depending on their other touch points. Alrighty. Getting into strategic placements and buyer personas. So as you're building out these product bundles, for example, we see clients breaking this down and looking at individual experiences for new visitors versus return visitors versus repeat customers. And really, we want to understand what that next step may be for them based on perhaps the times visited, or like you mentioned before, exactly what's in their cart or what's really popular depending on the season. So for new visitors, we would want to use a highly rated customer favorite, perhaps, or best sellers to introduce them to the best that you have and really put the best foot forward to that first entrance to the site. You can also expand on this strategy later on by looking at the sources related to each visitor and mirroring that message, if that makes sense, or elaborating on whatever message got them to your site. All right.
Hey, SJ, we had a quick question come in from the chat. This one is from Kathy. And she wants to know, can I embed these recommendations in a cart? I guess is the slide previous to the last one. Can they embed those recommendations in the cart or only on the web page?
That's a great question. Yeah, you can definitely have them in the web page and you can have them in a cart. So that product recommendation based on where they are in that journey, it may make more sense to show them that example and recipe in the cart to add on, or as they have added one product to cart, we can show that on a product page.
Awesome. Thank you, SJ.
Great question. Yeah. So let's see here, on-site messaging and compliance. So the goal here is to make sure we're keeping visitors up to date with any kind of shipping or stock updates. Generally, that's good practice whenever you're dealing with e-commerce, but even more so as this is a newer channel and just trying to give that credibility to it in e-commerce and make people feel comfortable even purchasing this on site now. So we want to make sure they're coming back to site, they being the visitor, and that they can expect to get this latest information from you and readily on your website. Maybe we don't want them digging through all email updates or dealing with sending out any kind of email updates. This is a quick way to address your visitors. And Justuno can do this with a pop-up. And again, using our advanced targeting rules, you can get really specific for who sees a certain pop-up or banner based on their IP address. So really narrowing it down by cities or where you know most of your shoppers are. Another point to compliance and just general on-site messaging for these high-risk clients would be age verification. So it doesn't have to be a boring type of design. We can definitely make this age verification still on brand with what fits for you, because it's still, it can be thought of as a front door to your site. We want it to look appealing, like we want to come to the site, like eventually we may want to purchase from it. So my tip there would be to stick with your branding and to not make it so maybe bland as someone is getting on your site there. For shipping and on-site strategy. So shipping notes can include anything from important signing information that may be needed upon delivery, depending on the type of products that you're sending. And then maybe even once a visitor has reached a free shipping threshold, or how much more they need to receive that free shipping. So the theme here is letting people know kind of where they are depending on how they're behaving on site. So if they've added something to cart, we're letting them know what the next step is to purchase, or giving them the opportunity to keep browsing. Something that I see working really well and that my clients using is testing out those free shipping thresholds to understand really if a pop-up is needed or effective at that point, and then comparing that within different channels. So you may find that having a few different shipping segments may work to boost that different channel or really make the most out of your messaging. So that could look something like visitors that are purchasing $200 plus, showing them a unique offer versus those that are maybe sticking more to that $75 and $100 range. So something really great to test out before the holidays, so that you can have that in place as you're getting through to your offers or strategies for Black Friday or Cyber Monday. Next thing up would be surveys and improved customer experience. So I know a lot of past conversations have been around first-party data and making sure that you're owning that. So Justuno makes that easy because you're already getting all of that information directly from the visitor. So with alcohol becoming a more common e-commerce vertical, it's a really great opportunity to use these pop-ups to learn as much as you can about your visitors. And you can accomplish this in unique touch points or unique ways on site. So everything from a post-purchase survey to whenever they're first arriving on site after that purchase, something with a little bit more of a delay. So really thinking through what makes sense for you whenever you do want to receive that feedback or on-site quizzes. Make it make sense for whenever a visitor is receiving the product, or if a special holiday just came asking them what they were really missing out on or what they wish they would have had. So really learning anything about how they're using a product, even if it's not yours, and general alcohol will be helpful. Awesome. So getting into frictionless cross-device experiences. Since we are more in that high risk vertical, because there are some things that we need to consider, we have to consider this also when it comes to email and SMS channels. So email tends to be a place where we can really be ourselves, really let our brand shine. And SMS is something that has a boundary where it requires alcohol merchants to remain transactional in how we're using the SMS channel. So Justuno works closely with our email and SMS partners to stay up to date on latest compliance and really how you should be capturing this information. And that can change day to day. So it could be, that you're using a strategist like myself to help with these updates, and that's perfectly fine. But we also do advise that you always check in with your SMS provider, your email provider, to see where you can really be creative and where we need to stick more within the boundaries there. So for example, if we know someone has opted in with email and SMS, for us, that helps within Justuno because we know we've got an engaged visitor. So we can use those advanced targeting rules here to know if they have engaged with our welcome pop-up. Okay, maybe we don't want to show them other messages as they're continuing to browse or experience the site. So mapping out that flow is something that will help with the different experience from desktop to mobile. And within Justuno, you can create different pop-ups for those as well. Awesome. So thank you so much for everyone's time. You can work with the Justuno strategist on the plus level here, and they help you with working through segments and sources and channels and keeping you up to date with what our other partners are doing in the space, so that you don't really have to worry about those little things and you can focus on that overall strategy.
Awesome. Thank you so much, SJ. We had one quick question from the chat come in. And sorry about that. Sarah would like to know what you would recommend as a best practice. Oh, sorry, went away. What would you recommend as a best practice with the age gate and a email and SMS opt-in for a pop-up?
Yeah, best practice design-wise include your branding. and include that age option where you can actually enter what your age is for the pop-up, and keeping it simple as a center promotion as well, so that we still get that full front door feel, and it shouldn't have any other type of engagement or options, just really quick into opting in to get to the website.
Awesome. Thank you so much, SJ.
Yeah,
That was fantastic. I'm a little biased since I work at Justuno, but I love that. So thank you again. So next up, we have Gabe from Omnisend to tell us all about how to, well, actually, I'll just let him take it away since he's the presenter. Take it away, Gabe.
Perfect. Thanks, Michael. So I was remiss and didn't tell people where I was located, but I'm in Charleston, South Carolina. And we just opened a new Omnisend office here. So if you're ever in the area and you want to stop by, we'd love to have you as guests. And we're right next door to a brewery, so appropriate location. So feel free to come and we'll grab a pint. All right, so my role as the Director of Customer Success at Omnisend is to make sure that our customers are successful utilizing our tool. I have a number of years of experience in e-commerce, and before that, I got my career started off as a middle school science teacher. So if anybody knows how to sell anything to anybody, it's me, because middle schoolers don't want to learn science. So here we go. We'll jump right in. And so one of the things I love talking about with alcohol is that, you know, there's this mindset in marketing that you're selling the products. And if you boil alcohol down to its pure substance as like a brown or a clear liquid, it may or may not smell good, depending on your opinion of it. It may or may not taste that great, but it's the experience that we're trying to sell. So we really have to think about the story that we're selling. And you go through this whole process. And so I was playing around today and I went into Google, and the first brand is Chubby's, right? Because the guys wearing Chubby's, the alcohol that they're drinking are very different than our friend in the middle, right? And so we look at like Moet Hennessy, which is owned by Louis Vuitton. It's a much different persona when we're branding what the story is and the experiences that we're telling when we're marketing to our customers. And then of course, we know the Real Housewives and the Skinny Girl Margaritas. And then the one on the left, I was just having fun and I literally typed in craft beer people and got this image. And I was playing around with like tequila people and vodka people. And like, it very quickly tells a story of who we should be marketing to depending on the type of alcohol that you're selling. And we can kind of weave that into the story as we get people on our list. You know, email marketing is the bread and butter that we work with at Omnisend. We have SMS, we have web push notifications, which are great omni-channel resources to kind of communicate in different avenues. But we know that email and email list acquisition is going to be where you're going to make your most money. It's going to be the highest ROI for us, especially in alcohol brands, as we're restricted by like how much ad spend we can do, where can we do acquisition marketing. We have to be sensitive to all of those things. So, you know, Stephanie touched on this a little bit in terms of like age gates and email pop-ups. And I put together this presentation and I was searching alcohol brands and I totally don't remember what brand this was, but I love that they present it as like, hey, here's the age gate, but come in and see our story. It's not just, hey, you can't see anything we have unless you confirm you're this old. It's, hey, don't you want to know what's on the inside? It becomes a level of exclusivity, right? And that's what we want to kind of embrace as alcohol brands, is we're letting people into the club. So we're going to check your verification, but you got to kind of be secretive about it. And that's a lot of fun. And then, you know, Mitch talked about Drizzly, right? And so when we get into that first impression make that we can have with our customers is what are we putting in the welcome series? Typically, I recommend at least a 3-part welcome series. The first email is if you're giving an incentive, if you're saying, hey, we're going to give you 50% off, we're going to give you free shipping, we're going to give you a free gift with that first purchase, you want to hit the inbox just about as immediately as possible. But what I love about the content of this email is that it's super simple. It's text heavy. You know, we can get into the nitty gritty of like, oh, does it need to be 80-20 image to text? It doesn't really matter. Welcome messages are going to get to the inbox. Your customers are going to be engaged there. They're going to be opening and clicking this. So it's going to make it to the inbox. But you can see that the first button that Drizzly put here is shop now. People are not the smartest people when shopping. And so they need to be told exactly what to do. And so there's literally the figurative big red button calling it out for people, make it as simple as possible. And then if people really kind of dig into it, then they're getting like the value add statements, the added values of why we should buy through your brand. And then there's some easy category pictures here as well. And then I love Drizzly, they have an app. Obviously they're backed by Uber, so they have money. So they have the app, but then they also have those little links to their social media. A second message would be great here is, do you want to join our loyalty club, which we're going to hear from Matt #1 on a little bit. Do you want to get social with us, hashtag us, show us the experience that you're creating? That's a free and easy way to get a whole bunch of user generated content by utilizing those hashtags. And then, do you want more preference information, or do you want to refer us to other people? So lots of things to kind of consider when making that first impression, telling your story. The next one that I love is abandoned cart. And again, the thing I want to call out here is when you're targeting people with messaging, you just got to keep it simple. So this is a great example from Whiskey Loot. Big kind of bold imagery, don't leave it on the shelf. And again, first thing you see is that button. People want to have frictionless commerce. They want the least amount of steps to complete their purchase, continue to check out. Time and time again, it's been proven that abandoned cart messages that don't include pricing are going to perform better. So you can see here, there's no call to that. A lot of times alcohol purchase may be an impulse buy. So they're not going to want to, sort of have that reservation of how much they're about to spend on this. And then again, reminding people that you can check out and they have that over $200 free shipping. And again, we're calling out the social media icons here. Anytime you can do that, it's perfect. Third message here, Stephanie, you kind of nailed it with the Justuno pop-up and like recommending those recipes of the Barilla pasta. This is a great example. So, a lot of times when I'm working with alcohol brands or kind of these niche consumer products, they're sensitive. They're not sure how much they want to actually send, right? Because, if you're, a small distillery and you have 1 or 2 brands, like 1 to 2 emails a month is probably a good amount. So want to make sure that we're sensitive to those types of things. So this is a great example where you're selling products without just selling products. There's no discount here. If you clicked into these recipes, they're linking you to the products that you would need to purchase, and maybe linking to affiliates or partners that are going to be selling those additional products, or giving you coupons to buy them in store. So a lot of fun things you can do here. If I'm selling rum, am I selling a mojito? Am I selling a daiquiri recipe? And then also, as we're getting into college football, think about seasonality. What kind of things can we do? Smoking meats may be something that's super popular at the tailgate, those types of things. That's getting a lot of popularity with people that have disposable income. So just be mindful of that, because people who are going to be buying alcohol online are usually meat collectors, have a little bit more sophisticated taste, and those are all things that we can play into. And then I guess a fourth automation that you could kind of look at is the re-engagement campaign. So this is a great example, and a lot of these examples I use from alcohol brands, huge brands, and there's no greater form of flattery than copying somebody else. And these people have data scientists, they have marketers. This is what they've determined has worked best. So they've done all that research for you. So don't hesitate to kind of steal some of these ideas. So this is the Guinness Web Store. Obviously, they've expanded into merchandising and other things. But a very simple, hey, it's been 6 months since you purchased, or are you doing a 3-month reorder reminder? A lot of flexibility there in terms of getting people to come back to the store. Also, I want you to notice the simplicity of this email. There's literally not a single product shown. It's just the Guinness factory. There's no call out of beers. There's no people in this. This is literally probably, you could build this email in 30 minutes with pretty good success. So don't let the simplicity of the emails paralyze you from getting it out there and getting it started. Get the stuff set up. You can always go back and enhance. Just something is better than nothing. And especially as we get into holiday, like we're not sure what shipping is going to look like. We're not sure what, warehousing and inventories and fulfillment is going to look like. So just be very mindful of that. We're telling our customers already they should start thinking about what are they going to be doing for holiday sales? Do you do an early Black Friday sale and kind of beat everybody to the punch? More and more people are calling it Gray November. So think about that. And then the other things are, don't be afraid to play around with the subject line. So, you deserve a break, treat yourself, make sure you're fully prepared, have the medicine on hand. You're going to be dealing with family, weather, COVID, who knows what that means in terms of travel at this point. And so, utilize your branding and your story to get people excited to give themselves that, and of course, gifting and all those types of things as well. And then just to kind of close it up, we have the omni-channel aspect of it, and Stephanie did a great job kind of summarizing this with SMS. There is a law out there called Shaft. You can Google it. Your head can explode. It's great reading material. But the reality of the situation is, there are going to be alcohol brands that get text messages out. It happens, right? Because maybe they didn't know any better and they signed up for SMS and it just goes out the door. And then all of a sudden it's just going to stop one day. And these carriers and these auditors are tracking backlinks. They go back to the site. So your message could be 100% like, hey, we're having a 20% off sale. Check it out. Here's our link. There's no mention of alcohol, no mention of it, but they're going to be checking those backlinks. So SMS is probably not the best channel unless you have specific communications that you're going to be looking at, which Matt is going to give some examples of. The other omni-channel experience that's going to work really, really well for this kind of space, just if you want to kind of change it up a little bit, is our web push notification. That is a native feature in OmniSend, in addition to email, and it's just enough of a unique thing that it works. There's not really a good concrete strategy behind it, but the people who use it leverage it for automations, they leverage it for campaigns, and it performs really, really well. I asked one customer, I said, how do you know when to do a web push notification? And his response was, if I send an email and revenue is a little low, I do a push campaign and I make up the revenue plus some that I need. And that's his whole strategy. So, really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all today. Super excited about this stuff. Please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll totally geek out with you. But Michael, thank you so much for having me here today.
Thank you for joining us, Gabe. That was excellent. I have a quick poll I'm going to launch for OmniSend, and additionally, we had another question coming from the chat from Kathy again, and she wants to know is it true if emojis really do drive up open rates for emails?
Yeah, great question. It's like anything. Overuse is going to diminish the effectiveness of it. Same thing with discounts. Same thing, with the number of emails that you have. So yeah, subject lines can definitely, or emojis can definitely impact open rates and subject lines. Just use them tastefully and accurately. And so, playing around with them, testing them out, it totally makes sense. And it will, you might see a little boost there.
Awesome. Thank you, Gabe. Perfect. So next up is Matt Polomard from Recharge. So Matt, I will let you take it away.
Cool, awesome. Everybody can see my screen, right? Thumbs up. Cool. All right. I just want to call out, that was a great call out, Gabe, on the seasonality of alcohol. I was looking through some data. It's just side context. After December, I noticed there's like a big dip in January, and it's, dry January is a thing. So it's always something to keep in mind if you're an alcohol brand out there, like how to change with the tides of the seasonality of alcohol. Cool. With that said, I'd just like to start off to say thank you to Justuno for having Recharge included in this amazing webinar. It's truly an honor to be here, especially to talk about some things that I'm passionate about: subscriptions and alcohol. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Matt Willemart. I'm a technology partnership manager here at Recharge. Prior to this role, I was an account manager, essentially helping brands get through 2020, which is really interesting. Through that experience, learned a lot about the product, learned a lot from our customers, and learned a lot about how subscriptions fits into the ecosystem. So pretty excited to talk more about that and how it relates to alcohol brands. Cool. First, let's talk a little bit about Recharge. Recharge has been an expert in the subscription space since 2016. It wasn't until recently we raised our Series B. This slide and the numbers is just an indication of the value and the importance that subscriptions is playing in the e-commerce landscape right now. Over the past couple of years, cost of acquisition has been going up. We have, Apple updates rolling out that are going with the trends of consumer privacy, and it's, a lot more competitors are rolling into the space. So customer loyalty and retention is becoming more of a value for a lot of merchants out there. And so that is what Recharge specializes in. We are a product-driven company. We focus a lot on our product and a lot on what our customers say. So a lot of the investment, a lot of the revenue that we get, we invest back into the product for innovation. Cool. So moving on, let's dive a little deeper. Let's talk about subscriptions. We do customer surveys from time to time just to gather data on how the landscape is changing and what customers are looking for, specifically subscribers. So this specific slide here on the left, we did a poll and found that more than half of customers want monthly subscriptions, as opposed to quarterly, semi-annual, and annual. I can relate to this. I'm pretty sure we all can relate to this. Just through the pandemic, working with my accounts and getting a gauge for the cadence in which their subscribers want their alcoholic beverages. It's pretty often. And one of the more important things about being an alcohol brand or in the consumable space is the convenience of having the flexibility to access your subscriptions and do what you want with them. So I'll talk a little bit more about that as well. So moving on to this next slide, this is something we've developed here at Recharge. It's called our merchant journey milestones. What you're looking at here are the different scales of merchants that we have here at Recharge, whether on the Shopify Plus, BigCommerce, and some headless merchants. These are different themes that we've noticed just from working with them that they are focused on. So for this particular slide, I'm going to focus on the two on the left, the newly started, the quick development, expansion brands in the middle, when they're rapidly growing. And so just talk about it in relation to alcohol brands and what's going on in the space right now as we see it, as more and more brands are seeing the need to go direct to consumer, deliver alcohol to their consumers, and build a way for their consumers to engage with their brands. So on the left, for newly started brands, these brands are typically focused on fast rollouts. They're focused on new acquisition. A lot of the time, they're just like, oh, I want to try out the subscription strategy. Let me see how this goes. And so what this looks like from a consumer standpoint or as a brand out there, you go on the site, you go to the product page, and you'll see one-time purchase or subscribe and save with a discount. The subscribe and save, that's subscriptions, that's Recharge, and that's kind of like the initial stage rollout of subscription strategy. And it works well. It's usually for brands that are just kind of testing the waters or getting into the space to begin with. The next phase after that, I should say, and especially in terms of acquisition, is in the expansion realm. And it is typically what we see. It's when brands start to see that more than 50% of their revenue, their monthly revenue, is coming from recurring revenue through subscriptions. And this becomes apparent in companies, and they'll start to focus a little bit more on it. So what they'll do, this is where the marketing starts to merge with the retention strategy. You'll notice these brands will start to change their language around subscription to more of a club, to more of a membership, to more community. And this is starting to lead into more of the idea of lifetime value and retaining those customers that they originally acquired. In the newly started category, a lot of brands will notice like, okay, I'm getting subscribers, but they're leaving. And then they'll start asking themselves why. So that's always a good question to ask yourself, is tuning in to your customers and understanding what their experiences are like as a subscriber. What we typically see is that starts leading to the conversation of building out a membership program, which works well for incentives, I should say. If you're part of the membership program, you get like free shipping, you get a certain amount of discounts, you get access to exclusive drops. Yapo, they could talk a little bit more about that. We're partners with them, and they do really well in that space as well in terms of loyalty programs and memberships. But yeah, so to speak a little bit about expansion brands, I was working with one as an account manager. They have really great marketing. They market themselves as a club at their subscription program, and they even go even further that they have these like community engagement. Like kind of, you call them webinars, I don't know webinars, but they're just like check-ins on Zoom for people that are drinking, their product and connecting. So the idea of subscriptions and community is like, there are other people that are really interested in the product. It's great for them to connect. It's like-minded people, and let them talk and let them enjoy your product. So yeah, okay. So going further into the idea of convenience, one of the things that we like to focus on here at Recharge is meeting our customers where they are. So we do this with the merchants, but also that scales down to what merchants do with their customers. And so one of the features that we have here at Recharge is our customer portal, which is essentially a space for subscribers to manage their subscriptions. If you're a newly started brand, we have templates that you can easily plug and play. One of them being Novum, another one being Prima. Essentially, those are modeled after very successful customer portals that we have seen over the years. You can do a lot of things on there. It makes it easy for subscribers to change their subscriptions. They can add products to their recurring order. They can swap out their subscription. Just really simple things that makes the experience for the subscriber a lot better and leads to longer lifetime value and more brand loyalty. So with that, diving even a little bit deeper into the idea of convenience, and I'm just kind of reiterating the idea of convenience because it's something that's definitely becoming a thing, right? So we have a feature here at Recharge called Recharge SMS. Essentially, it's transactional SMS messages for subscribers. So if you're a customer going through the flow, going through checkout, there's an option on the checkout that says, hey, as a subscriber, would you like to manage your subscriptions through SMS? If they opt in, then they could have the opportunity to manage their subscriptions through this automated process of text messages. And so they'll be shown a list of options on how to manage their subscriptions. And all they have to do is respond with a corresponding number. And if they need help to, further than the automation, then it'll link to the brand's like help desk essentially. So something that's definitely helping improve a lot of value for a lot of brands. One of my accounts used Recharge SMS. One of my brands who is an alcohol brand, I should say, they were actually one of the first adopters, and it worked out really well for them. Just recently, last week, the team, the SMS team, they pulled some numbers as they're digging through the data. And I just want to share this with everybody. And this is kind of like one of the cool, like leading in data points, but they said that subscribers who swap over the course of 12 months spent 78% more than the subscribers that didn't. And so, yeah, if you're a Recharge user, we have analytics that have those kind of data points as well within the dashboard. So if you're on Recharge, awesome, definitely dive into the analytics. But yeah, I don't want to get too into the weeds here. So yeah, I know that was a lot already. I will drop some other helpful links that dive a little bit deeper into memberships. We recently just put out a blog about a week ago that also ties into a podcast that we did that talks a little bit about memberships. So yeah, with that, I just want to say thank you everybody for listening, and it's good to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Matt. We had a quick question come in from the chat. This is from Christopher, and he wants to know, they use Recharge via Shopify, and he wants to know, is the SMS feature available on Shopify? You are muted.
Sorry, I'm like trying to like be the engineer. Yeah, it's available.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Matt. So let's move right along. So next up we have Maloney from Yotpo. And I'm going to start off her section with a quick poll. And so Maloney, if you want to share your screen and take it away. And Maloney, you are muted as well.
Sorry about that. It's just such a habit. Yeah, can everyone see my screen?
Good to go.
Perfect. Thank you, Michael. Yeah, so welcome to the webinar. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you, Justuno, for having me. A quick poll, if everyone can take it, and then I'll jump right in. I had a feeling that was how it was going to go. And so I'll jump in and see how Yotpo can do it. So my name is Maloney again. I'm a client success manager here at Yotpo. My hair is a lot shorter now, but that is me. And what we'll cover today is really just a little bit about Yotpo, and then the alcohol market and the opportunity, one, given the pandemic and just as e-commerce grows. A little bit about just the strategic partnerships and where Yotpo can come in to help you out, and then some examples that I have, and then some Q&As. So a little bit about Yotpo. So we are your one-stop shop for all your digital marketing needs, whether it be acquisitions, retention, engagement. We're there through the entire shopper journey. So we have multiple products, and then we also integrate with a lot of your other partners. For example, here we have like Recharge and BigCommerce. So we're really your tech partner. And then we recently—
Hey, Melanie, your deck is not showing.
Oh. Is it showing now?
All right, we're good now. Yes.
Okay. I don't know what happened, but thank you.
No worries.
And then just as we grow, through the pandemic and e-commerce becoming such a big part of a shopper's experience, we earlier this year raised about $230 million that we're putting towards product innovation and becoming a even more elevated partner. And we have about 30,000 plus clients already, and we're just growing from there. So where Yotpo can come in, like I mentioned, from the beginning of the shopper's journey, and then retention through and through. So we have products such as referrals, and that's like for new customer acquisition, but then engagement through reviews on your site, and visual UGC, which is like user-generated content that your customers, especially within the alcohol industry, there's so much variety. So having reviews that your customers can sort through and have like an easy buyer experience, and then converting using SMS marketing, which there's a metric that's like 96% of SMSs that are sent out are opened within the first 3 minutes. So making sure you have that conversion, and then of course like retention at the end as well through a loyalty program. I am a client success manager for loyalty, so I would like to share a little bit more on how I work with certain alcohol brands as well. But before I do that, a quick, just some metrics that I wanted to share. And it's a slow embrace in the industry for, because of laws that the alcohol industry is governed by. 44% of shoppers recently converted in the past year to buying the alcohol online. So there's definitely so much growth potential there. So being at the forefront of that definitely will help you be a leader in the industry. And then the industry is also going to be about $40 billion by 2024, just for e-commerce itself. So a lot of growth potential, and wanted to share those metrics. And then just certain advantages on selling them online. You get data from your customers, and being able to mold the experience for each individual customer, and like personalizing that experience as well. Having distribution challenges that the alcohol market has per state, navigating through that and allowing us and your other e-commerce partners to help you with that, and having an e-commerce brand and technology partners will definitely help in that sense as well. So certain strategies I wanted to highlight is, shoppers often love the personalization. And so they're expecting that when they come to your website, and definitely making sure it's easy for them to navigate through. So using reviews, for example, or user-generated content, having Instagram photos, and making sure someone can click through them and shop according to the product per photo. So personalizing the entire experience will definitely convert, and then also make for a seamless experience. And then retention over acquisition. Acquisition is a huge part to grow your business, but retention is crucial for survival. So that being said, I would like to jump into just like the loyalty piece of it. And what we've seen in the past year, like in 2020, that 53% of customers purchased again, like the repeat purchase rate, who had a loyalty program. That is incredible for retention for your brand. And then your average order value can also increase by at least 8%. And then the lifetime value of a customer by 65%. So there's just great performance. I know there's a lot of numbers here, but wanted to share what the growth potential looks like if you have the right partners. An example I wanted to share was Splash Wines. They're one of my brands that I work with, and they have a loyalty program, and they've kept it pretty simple, but really effective. And they've seen an ROI of 18x. To put it in perspective, our benchmarks are 4 to 7x. And so they're really blowing everything through the roof. And then a 93% repeat purchase rate. So, and these are for the redeemers that have been coming back over and over, and they just do a really good job and a compelling loyalty program. And I want to show you their VIP tiers, kind of how they've set them up. So their basic account, it's no fee, it's free to join, and as long as you're purchasing, then you're part of it. And then they have 2 other memberships, and so that's how they've set it up. A couple of things I want to highlight here is they don't have a long laundry list of benefits. So highly recommend keeping it simple and effective, especially in the alcohol market, free shipping. And because shipping costs can be really, really high. So maybe offering that, and then making sure you know your target audience and keeping it very effective and to the point. And then they offer cash back. So 1% for the basic, 2 and 5% for their other membership tiers. So they have an incredible program, and I highly recommend you check it out at some point. And if you have questions, absolutely can ask me as well. And that's everything I have with Yotpo. I think we're doing incredible things. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
All right. Thank you so much, Melanie. That was awesome. Yeah, no worries at all about the slides. And also, without further ado, we are running up on the hour, but that's okay. So if you can't stay past the hour, Matt here, we'll be sending out this recording, so don't worry, you'll get to see Matt if you can't make it. So with that in mind, Matt, if you want to take it away for our last slide.
Sure, thank you. Okay, everyone's looking at the right screen, right?
Good to go.
Okay. So very quickly, for anyone who isn't familiar, Skubana is an e-commerce operations platform. And so while we have a couple of merchants who sell only on one channel, the majority of them are actually selling on a lot of different channels. For example, when our CEO founded Skubana, he was selling on a bunch of Amazon properties. He was selling on 3 different eBays. He was selling on a Magento store, Jet, Walmart, and he's actually switched platforms, I think 2 times at this point, all of which integrate. Another important thing is that Skubana integrates with a bunch of different warehouses and warehouse types. So fulfillment complexity tends to increase over time and as you grow, often into a mix of owned warehouses, 3PLs, and not so much with alcohol, but FBA, fulfillment by Amazon. And so when I look at alcohol fulfillment, I think it's possible that it entails more complexity. At least when we look at the merchants who have inquired about using Skubana, they're definitely using multiple fulfillment methods in multiple warehouses. The goal of doing all this, of unifying all these different channels and warehouses, is to manage the vast majority of operations in a single system. Obviously, operations is a big word, but the more unified you can get, the more things you can automate. And obviously that is the goal. I think we saw it on Matt number 1's 3rd tier. As you grow, that's one of the most important things you need to do, is figure out how to automate. And the easier it is to analyze data, that's another aspect of unifying this stuff together. I'll get into demand forecasting in a little bit and how important that is and helpful it is when you have all this data in one place. But enough about Skubana for now. I'm just going to jump into 2 trends on the consumer side. So number 1, findings are showing that consumers who are buying alcohol online, the number 1 thing they're concerned about is product availability. Obviously, unless you're offering pre-orders, which I don't think a lot of people do with alcohol, consumers can't buy products that are out of stock. And that's obviously a huge letdown for consumers when they go to a product page, especially that comes from a promotion, whether we're talking about from a text, an email, or some alert. But it's also tangible loss for you. A big part of inventory management, order management, is making sure that that doesn't happen. There are a lot of ways to forecast demand. I'm definitely not an expert. There are people who spend a lot of time doing this and then still hire external resources to help them understand how this should be forecasting. But there are a number of ways of doing it. They go from very scientific to sort of back of the envelope math. One of the things people do is called collective opinion model. That is a fancy name for basically just going to your team, asking for their judgment, hopefully having all the data, at least in a spreadsheet somewhere, where you can analyze it. You can talk about the pricing, competitors, and put together some sort of model. But there are a great number of statistical models. Skubana has demand forecasting built into the product for a pretty specific purpose. And that's for restocking and reordering, which isn't always super relevant for alcohol brands. But the main point is you want to avoid stockouts as much as you can. But you also need to acknowledge that that's going to happen. And that's sort of important for marketers. The goal is to make sure you have a process that you make sure you don't have out of stock products being served in ads. That not only helps improve the shopping experience, but it also prevents a big waste in ad spend. We talked earlier, someone talked earlier about rising customer acquisition costs. As those rise, if you work in operations, you definitely don't want to tick off somebody in marketing and have them rushing in. And I'm pretty sure if you work in marketing, you don't want to confront those scary operations guys, how they messed with your promotion. So stock management, definitely in no way a traditional function of marketing, but in a way, inventory management is definitely everybody's business. So if you have the tools available, so you want to set alerts for when stocks are starting to run low, not just when they run out. So if you're in marketing, definitely a good idea to talk to your operations team ahead of the holidays, so you can get those alerts and plan accordingly. Whether that means, turning a campaign completely off or just reducing the spend or putting a cap. Another thing is shipping and delivery time. This is a top concern. I don't think I've attended a session having to do with shipping or operations where we don't talk about the expectations that Amazon set with 2-day delivery. But I think the important thing is to determine what makes sense for your brand. Obviously, you don't want to damage your margins if you don't have to. You don't want to offer free shipping to absolutely everybody. What are the thresholds you need to use? And customer surveys, a little bit of experimentation, maybe a full year of data gathering to really understand on different channels. And I think I was going to talk a little bit about using shipping as leverage, but I think that's been pretty well covered here. So I'll hop to my next slide. We'll talk a little bit about 2 other kinds of trends related to warehouses, not so much customers. So it's definitely crucial to pay attention to what's happening in the warehouse space, because if other people are finding ways to save money with warehousing and fulfillment, aka your competitors, and you're not, you're probably going to start losing out in some way, or at least it's going to be a disadvantage. But a big trend is wineries especially are relying on 3PLs. Wineries have been doing this the longest, so they are the first to move on this trend. But they're usually not experts in D2C fulfillment, even though they definitely have the edge on everybody else. And funny enough, not all 3PLs are either. And D2C fulfillment, a lot of third-party logistics companies just got into e-commerce in the last year or 2. So it does take some digging to figure out, not only do they have e-commerce experience, but do they have experience, shipping alcohol? Do they have licenses? Do they understand the ins and outs of your business? And even though there are probably somewhere around 35,000 3PLs in the country that you could potentially talk to, you probably want to whittle it down a little bit. But when you do, we know inventory management is important. So being able to integrate with whatever system, whether it's Skubana or something else, is super important. And so, making sure that there's a native integration that already exists or some sort of integration point is really key. On the other hand, you have systems like Skubana, and I think there might be a handful of others that have an open API, a lot like eCommerce. It allows people to build into the platform. You can even build an app into the Skubana App Store. Many 3PLs have done that in the past to great success. And some customers have built apps and then turned it into a side business, charging $25 for the integration. The last trend I want to highlight is the rising shipping cost due to alcohol regulations, and really shipping costs just have been on the rise generally speaking, but labeling and extra shipping costs resulting from federal regulations do add up at higher volumes. I think at lower volumes, it's really not too big a deal, worrying about that extra thing you have to print out. But one of the bigger costs is when you're shipping a product to a customer's home and they have to sign off on it. A lot of the time they're not there. That happens constantly. You don't have an adult in the house, someone 21 or older, to sign off on the order. Multiple delivery attempts have to be made. The carriers know this. They're passing those fees on to you because their costs are ballooning. I actually saw a brand, June Shine, who we've talked to before at Skubana, and they charge $25 additional if they make 3 delivery attempts and you don't show up. I think they continue basically to try to deliver forever at that point, though. Don't hold me on that. But one last thing, yeah, if you're a 3PL is always going to cost you some money, but they're going to get a discount from carriers, definitely a bigger one than you do, because of the massive volume they're doing. So you definitely have to find that out too. When you're looking at 3PLs, or if you decide to look at a 3PL to help you fulfill alcohol, it makes sense to figure out what kind of discount they're getting, especially if they have experience and they're doing a volume with a carrier that allows for alcohol fulfillment, because not many do. So obviously you want a flexible 3PL network. I think you want to cover many different areas. Normally in e-commerce, you want to get to all of the shipping zones within 2 days. But in alcohol, you have to be a lot more strategic. You know, there are a lot of places you don't want to bother shipping to. If you're a winery, it's a little bit looser. If you're a beer company, you know, I think it's 10 states you have availability on. But just making sure you have the right 3PLs in the right locations. We have a list here of 5 3PLs that actually support wine and spirits, and they use 3PL Warehouse Manager, which actually just acquired Skubana about 6 months ago. So we're building a really great native integration with those. So if anybody is interested or wants to know a little bit more about these 3PLs or wants an introduction, I'd be happy to do that. Okay, and I just want to show 2 ways you might use Skubana to help you fulfill D2C orders. I'll start with order bots. Order bots are a really powerful way to automate your processes. So instead of devoting a bunch of people power and spreadsheets to manually process your orders, you can use order bots to eliminate many repetitive tasks. I mean, sometimes we have customers who use over 1,000 order bots. Some just need and use 50. This not only saves a bunch of time and money, but it also makes your processes less prone to errors, which is very important when you are worried about compliance. One example, when you ship dry ice, you need a handful of markings on the box. You need the words dry ice or carbon dioxide solid written on it. I think it actually depends on where you're shipping it to. You need a special label identifier that you have to print out and place on the package. And you need to put the net weight of the dry ice in kilograms. It's a number of different things. It's all important for compliance. And with an order bot, you could send a notification to a warehouse where you're fulfilling that item. You tell them to add the special label. You tell this place to print it off. It all kind of happens automatically. You can also add dry ice weight as an attribute and have an order bot account for that when they're selecting a shipping carrier. A big thing in e-commerce, D2C fulfillment, is rate shopping. You're sort of limited with alcohol, as I mentioned earlier, but you want to calculate with the ice, with the product, with the packaging, with everything, what is the best carrier to use and for the location where your warehouses are. So you can use an order bot to figure out where the optimal warehouse is to save you the most money, to get it there the fastest, and set all kinds of rules. One more example, in most states, there's a limit to the amount of alcohol you can send to one address per licensed warehouse. Not a lawyer, but that's my basic understanding of it. So you could potentially use order bots to route orders from different warehouses to make multiple deliveries to one address. And that is not a lawyer, it's not legal advice, but that is, to my understanding, the way to get around that. The second feature I want to talk about is automated purchase orders. So purchase orders are important when you're buying from a manufacturer. A lot of alcohol brands, this is not something you're doing, but there's something around that. And there's a lot of tools within automating purchase orders that you can use as a brand. The question of when to reorder, or I guess when to manufacture more of a particular product and how much, comes up constantly. If you're using a tool like Skubana, you already know your vendor products, your vendor part numbers, your lead times, your velocity from every warehouse, and then in every channel that's going to. And what that means is with Skubana, you can automate that. You can even bake in seasonality, which, as we mentioned earlier on this webinar, it's very important coming up with the holidays. You can add in a 20% increase in sales in this particular time, a 30% drop in dry January, and make it pretty easy to figure out the order quantities that you need. FYI, that level is like constantly adjusted. So people do this, they figure out the amounts, but there's so much math involved, and often there are so many products and so many channels. By the time you're finished crunching the numbers, they might be a little bit off, if not way off, especially in times of like a lot of volatility. So having a system to do it is very helpful. And the last thing I want to do is give a piece of advice. It's in everybody's interest to make sure management of shipping and fulfillment don't fall into disarray, which definitely happens around the holidays. So it's in everyone's interest to invest in some sort of cross-channel, cross-warehouse reporting. It's helpful for everyone to know what those numbers are. It's helpful to have those alerts set up. You save money on fulfillment, which can be used for way better things. You'll deliver a better experience on the site, and you're definitely going to help further the growth of your customer base. And then I wanted, for everyone who actually stuck around this late, I wanted to extend the offer of a $50 Amazon gift card. If you speak with somebody on the team, there's a link here. Ashley from our team is going to drop it in the chat. You go in, you fill out the necessary questions, pick a time, qualify for a demo, and the card's yours. So that's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Matt. That was fantastic. Logistics is one of the topics that surprises me the most. I guess just how little I know about it. And so I'm always excited for Skubana to hop on a webinar with us, because I'm always going to learn something new, no matter the topic.
Yep.
So I really appreciate that. Well, yeah, so we are a little bit past the hour. So I'm going to launch one last quick poll for everyone. And then while we do that, I'd like for everyone to say goodbye. Appreciate everyone for joining the panel today. It's been a fantastic time. I hope everyone's learned a lot. And as a final reminder as well, we will be, I'll be sending out the recording of this webinar tomorrow morning to all registrants. So if you couldn't make, if you have a friend that would be interested in this, or you want to watch it again, so on and so forth, you'll see it in there. So yeah, if all the panelists want to say bye real quick, we'll close out.
Thanks, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Thanks. Take care.
Right. Thank you so
Thanks.
much,
Yeah.
everyone. Have a good day. See you guys.
Yes.
Have a drink later.
Awesome.